Hey, this is Meridith Elliott Powell, and welcome to another episode of Thrive, Turning Uncertainty into Competitive Advantage, the show where we dive into the steps, we discuss the strategies, everything that you need to know to actually make uncertainty and change start working for you in your business. Now, you're going to want to stay tuned because after our short video, I got two dynamic women to introduce you to who, if anybody can bust through obstacles, if anybody can deal with shifts and change, it is these two women. So hang right with us. We'll be right back. All right, it's Meridith Elliott Powell again. Let's dive in. I have got Rachel Pitts with me today, Gina Trimarco, and let me tell you, they rock a podcast called The Women Your Mother Warned You About. They both work for Sales Gravy and got their hands in a million other things. So welcome to the show.
Thank you, Meridith.
Thank you, Meredith. That was actually very correct.
So perfectly said.
Exactly. So just for our audience, those listening to us, Rachel, you start. Give us a little bit overview of who you are, what you do.
My name is Rachel Pitts. I am a master sales coach with Sales Gravy and co-host of Women Your Mother Warned You About with Gina, as Meredith mentioned. I am the creator of Your Ultra Fit Lifestyle, which is my fitness business. And I also spent about 12 years in the mortgage and real estate industry prior to what I do now. And most recently, I'm acquiring a dance studio. Go figure. Talk about a million things.
I love it. Taking advantage of opportunity. And Gina?
And I'm Gina Trimarco, Master Sales Trainer at Sales Gravy and the Director of Coaching Programs for Sales Gravy and co-host of The Women Your Mother Warned You About. And I'm going to leave it there. I think that's enough right now.
All right. So you're both experts in the entrepreneurial field. You're both experts in the sales, world. Tell me a little bit about what you see happening in the marketplace. What are some of the biggest challenges that you're seeing some of your customers dealing with right now?
I don't know if I would call it challenge or opportunity. What I'm seeing right now, especially post-pandemic, that has been interesting is that we're coming back into the new normal of, okay, we want to see you guys do training in person on one side, but then others are like, we want to stay virtual. And now there's this blend of like, okay, how do I get on a plane, get over there? Then like, bring something with me. Do I train in a hotel room? So I've seen that as an interesting, people are coming back on board and they really want to go for it. So that's been kind of an interesting challenge / opportunity. The other thing I've seen that I've heard a lot from working with our clients is top of funnel. So they had seen a lot of inbound coming into their websites for leads and they're not anymore. And that's kind of drying up and that seems to be a big issue.
Cool. What about you, Rachel?
I would agree 100% with what Gina is saying in terms of how now the new normal is really a blend of, it's a hybrid of people that have, even if it's just more convenient to utilize Zoom or virtual, sometimes it's just more convenient for people. So now in every industry, whether it be in the real estate industry or even in the dance world, it's kind of like, oh, it's always a question. Are you offering a virtual, alternative? Is that still available? Are you offering in person? Like everybody wants to know. And the other side that I'm seeing is people are kind of like ready to get back in stuff. Yeah. So there's an opportunity there where people are kind of just holding back their funds, probably in terms of corporate, as well as just holding back their own pocketbook because they're worried about what's going to happen, and they're just tired of being inside, and they're like, I don't care, let's do all the things.
So basically, what I'm hearing from the two of you is that there I am. I own a business, and my top of funnel is starting to slow down, if not dry up a little bit. I've got customers who want to go all in, who are ready to be back in there. I've got customers who are pulling back. How the heck am I supposed to navigate that? And before you answer that question, Gina, I want to talk about what is your feeling as to why do you think top of funnel has become problematic right now. What do you think's going on in the environment that's causing that?
I think so much has changed, and that we're in this new normal, and the way people are doing things is very different. And we went from face-to-face interactions, and now we've transitioned into more of this virtual transaction and having these conversations virtually. And some people are adopting it really well and adapting to it very well of, okay, this is how I have to switch over. Others are not. Some are still fighting it, that no, face-to-face is the only way to do it. I don't want to do it virtual. Even though they're learning how to use the tools, they are convinced that the only way to do it is the old way. And so now they're starting to see the impact of that they're not adapting and changing.
Cool. Rachel, weigh in on that. What do you think?
Tell me the question again. I'm so mesmerized by
what Gina was saying. We're talking about top of funnel, because I'm going to tell you what I'm seeing in the marketplace is either people are crazy busy or they're struggling right now.
Yes.
And it doesn't seem to be industry specific. I mean,
No.
Certainly there are industries that are struggling more than other, industries. Even industries that are doing well, they're getting hit by the supply chain right now. Right? I mean, I've got companies that could sell like crazy people, but they're stuck with the supply chain. So what do you think is really going on out there? Is like, why is top of funnel become such an issue? And then I want to swing to, what should I be doing to really get my top of funnel going?
All right, now I understand what I'm about to talk about. So I would say
right there is the problem with virtual, right? Is why we have to get back together in person, because we zone out a little bit.
What was that question?
Yeah.
So I think that it's fear. It's all fear-based of they like you said, they want to jump back in. They're a little worried about it. They're holding back, or else they're wide open, but yet they're still fear-filled. And that's it's holding people back, because it's still that fear of like, what's going to happen. And the solution, I mean, 100% what I learned from Meridith when she was on our Women Your Mother Warned You About podcast was just get on the phone and ask them what they need. I utilize that skill so effectively in this business acquisition that I'm doing. Like, just get on the phone and say, hey, tell me about your concerns.
Yeah.
Period.
It's I've got I'm on the road this whole next week. I'm 5 cities, 5 different events. Let's cross our fingers my flights work. And I'm so excited because I'm going back to dinners and things like client events. And my husband was asking me about it. He said, wow, you seem really excited. I said, I get to be with people and ask them what's on their mind and what they're feeling and thinking. And that is going to be the avenue to what I need to do next to grow my business. I mean, for sure.
Because you might not even realize what it is. Like, I had a couple, when I asked that question, hey, what's your concern? What are your concerns? I got a couple things. I was like, oh, did not see that coming. And that's really the beauty of talking to your customers and your stakeholders of, like, you may not see it at all because you're busy in the quagmire of running your business and doing all the things.
Yeah,
I think Rachel hits it on the head. The quagmire. I think a lot of things I've also been hearing.
Word.
I love it. Other things I've been hearing from clients is we have concerns about our pipeline for 2022, which I found really interesting. And I started hearing this in March. We're concerned about the pipeline for 2022, and I think some of that comes from people were just reacting and not planning ahead, not being progressive, and they're still trying to catch up. Mm-hmm. And now they're starting to like look at the pipeline and go, oh, what am I doing? And so some people are scrambling.
Well, I mean, I do think it's difficult. If you had a lot of business coming through the door, you were just trying to take care of what you had, and it's easy to take your, to take your foot off the gas. So what are you seeing that's really working out there in the marketplace? I mean, what are the stories, or what are the strategies? What are the things that you're seeing that are really moving business forward or making salespeople successful?
Well, what I've seen, and I don't mean this to be a shameless plug for Sales Gravy, but I'll put that in there anyway. What I've seen in just talking to clients is some of the clients that we're working with, obviously ideal clients, they're thinking ahead and they're being progressive and they're saying, you know what, things are really good right now, especially real estate. They're like, things are really good right now, but we want to be prepared for when things change. And they're not like, woe is me, like the market's going to drop tremendously, but the market will decline. And so they're thinking ahead, going, we know that this can't last forever, this living high on the hog. So what are we going to do to plan ahead? So I think those people who are staying open-minded that way and not being doomsday, just saying, hey, let's be progressive and plan ahead. And I see that working. And I see, a lot of the people that we coach and we train, especially from a coaching perspective, we're seeing an increase in coaching because we have salespeople out there and the people that we work with are high performers. And they're like, hey, I'm doing well, but I want to do better. So they're investing in themselves. And I see that as another thing that people are doing. And then anyone who's actually planning and calendaring and getting a hold of their time discipline, I see that as being effective as well right now.
Yeah. I'm going to weigh in. I know too much. So I know Gina does a lot of work with the bigger real estate companies through Sales Gravy, these larger groups that they're just selling them like crazy, the brand new houses, because that's kind of the only inventory that's available right now. And having worked in the real estate industry for a pretty long time, and I still worked in mortgage and real estate actively up until very recently. So in 2020, strangely enough, the pandemic it was our biggest year ever in mortgage and real estate. Like, it was historically huge and crazy because people were moving away from the city in droves down to our area to get out of the city and to have a little bit more space and ability to not be trapped in a little box. Well, now it's the flip side for any type of resale. Like, the new developments are going off the hook. And like Gina said, but in terms of resale, the realtors on the ground level are struggling because there's no inventory. And they're like, what do we do? Like the supply chain, what you were talking about, Meridith. And so those folks that I talk to, those realtors, they're like, what do I do now? I can't make money if I'm not selling a house. So you get trapped in, again, this quagmire of fear. And what I tell them is, basically along the lines of what Gina is saying too, is plan ahead, invest in yourself, get that pipeline going of people that, what's happening is people that own homes that want to sell them, they're afraid to sell because they have nowhere to go.
Right.
So what you can do is still talk to those people and develop those relationships and all those touch points so that when they're ready to sell, you're who they call.
Yeah.
So the phone calls are still efficient, even if you're not closing business right then.
Yeah, I've been blown away by, kind of to both of your points, the number of people who've called me to come speak to their organization or train to their organization that just came off their best year on record. Because typically, you think about, I talk about uncertainty and change. You think I would be talking to organizations that have been wiped out. But exactly to your point, no, it's the people that are saying, we just came off an amazing year. A, we think we can do better. And B, we want to be prepared when the tides shift, because they will shift. Yeah. That's life, guys. I mean, you have a great year, you have a bad year. Look over the last 20 years of your life. It's been a major high and a major low. And you rather than run away from that, jump in and basically deal with it. What are some of the biggest mistakes you're seeing people make right now, where you watch and you go, oh, I mean, it's kind of like Rachel and I were talking in the green room, and I was talking about a situation where I just can't get somebody to talk to their clients. They keep thinking they have the right idea. And I'm saying it may be the perfect idea, but if you don't have the language of the customer, it isn't going to work. So what are some of the biggest mistakes where you just, it's just painful to watch or to think about?
I think some of the biggest mistakes, they're kind of old school mistakes. They're the same mistakes of like, we're going to go back to picking up the phone and making calls and reaching out and continuing to prospect. I see some people, again, being comfortable with what they have and think that it's going to keep on coming, and it will to an extent. But like you said, Meridith, business is cyclical. I mean, if you go back and look at history, or you listen to anybody who's an economist, right? It's cyclical. We're going to have these ups and downs. So you have to be continuing to prospect. And that's a big mistake. I see that's not happening. And prioritizing, I see this over and over again, prioritizing time and saying, I just don't have time to prospect. I don't have time to make calls. I don't either. I mean, I am slammed right now. I'm falling into that category of that you talk about, like being like having the business coming in. I'm slammed. It just means I'm working extra hours to get caught up and starting to hire my own virtual assistant team to help me. So those are some of the mistakes I'm seeing.
Yeah. What about you, Rachel?
I am seeing mistakes where people are focusing on the problem and not the solution. So if you are someone who's inclined to get all in types of conversations of what's not working and complaining about what's not working and kind of having meetings about what's not working, and it's, you know what I'm saying, like, et cetera, instead of going, okay, this is what we've got, this is what is. Somebody we just interviewed on one of our podcasts said, like, deal with what is. I think it was Stu Heineck, right?
Yeah. Sounds
Just
like
deal with what is was one of his sound bites. And so you go, okay, we just lost this entire part of our industry. So what's the solution to that? Where's the opportunity, and what can we do to, or like the people, like Gina was saying, they don't want in person. She's on the road. What's the solution so she can still serve her virtual clients while she's on the road? And I know Gina's a solution-oriented person, so I'm not worried about her. It's not always pretty when we find solutions, but I think that's one thing that, especially in this heated environment of the politics and the COVID and all the conflicting ideas of what's going on, that there's a lot of people getting caught up in trying to be right about some issue rather than just trying to find a solution to make their world work.
Yeah, it's funny. I was thinking about this the other day, is that I mean, I don't know a lot about your histories, but I'm guessing because how courageous and bold you are, like with your podcast, like me, you've probably faced a lot of adversity in life. It's sort of there's a lot of checkers in the past. And the blessing of that is that facing a lot of adversity, you're able to take a risk, and you're able to always at least find the positive in something. I was telling a group that I work with the other day, I said, my first husband passed away from alcoholism. And I said, one of the benefits of that was in 300 days that were bad, I had to focus on the 65 that he was sober and he was good. And how I took that into business was, it can be 300 days of yuck, but I'm focused on the 65 days where I actually landed business, and what you focus on expands. That's what pushes you forward. It's
100.
such a simple concept, but people miss it. And what I love about that is that you control that, right? Like,
yes.
I can control what I focus on.
Yes.
100%. I know this isn't business related, but because it's fresh on my mind, our dog got away 4 days ago and is still missing, and that is a devastating situation to deal with. And how do you continue working when, where's our dog right now? And what we've done to keep each other up as a couple is like, hey, let's just lift each other up when one of us is like falling down on this, because we're emotionally not going to be right. And then let's look at all the positive things that dog has brought for us, right? Even though she's not with us right now, all the amazing things that she's taught us, right? So to your point, it's about going to that positive side and just seeing the positive part of it. And then also be in a mindset of, I teach this in improv-based sales training. I talk about soliciting failure, not embracing it, not, people talk about it, embrace failure or fail forward. I say, solicit the failure, go break something on purpose so that you can rebuild it into something better. So when you stay in that mindset of, I'm going to break it, then nothing's ever really broken, because you know that you're going to fix it, and just stay in that mindset.
Yeah, I love that. We're going to hope that you find your
Thank
dog.
you.
In fact, I would be That is the worst thing ever. I am so sorry. So
Thank
focus on
you.
all that positive stuff that that you can control. But life is just life, and business is full of tough challenges. But when you focus on the things that can move you forward, the next chapter is going to open up. The next good thing is going to
100%.
Yeah. And you don't even know sometimes what that is. So example, with this business acquisition, I had a little challenge with staffing, and I'm pretty sure there's people out there having staffing challenges right now. And so somebody bailed on me like kind of the last minute. And for a second I was like, oh man, but I had like a little roller coaster because I went, oh no, this is terrible. And then I was like, I'm doing everything wrong. I'm going to fail. Oh my God. And then I went, no, my heart is in the right place. I want this to succeed. I just have to take action. And so the next morning, this was like on a Sunday late afternoon. So I just said, I'm not going to worry about this tomorrow morning. So I just picked up the phone, like any type of prospecting. I started using my network, and I made like 4 or 5 calls, and now I hit the jackpot of like the replacement person is 10 times better than what I had before.
So true.
So you sometimes when you hit a problem, you don't know that the solution is already coming to you.
Yeah.
As long as you just take steps forward rather than just turning around and looking back in despair.
That's I always say that with networking, there's no problem you have, no problem you face that somebody within your network hasn't already tackled or couldn't connect you with somebody to help you solve, to help you solve that, to really help you solve that problem. And I think even in this virtual world, depending on where you live in the country or the world and where you are with COVID, you still need to reach out, and you still need to be building that network.
Well, Meredith, I think that we have an even better network now because of that.
Yeah.
Because we're actually connecting more virtually than we ever did. So our network's even better.
You're right with that. I mean, we can spend a lot more time online with people.
Totally. And the other side to it is you have to get vulnerable when you need your network. Like there was that moment when I was like worried that I just thought, oh God, I don't want anyone to know I'm having staffing issues already. And then I just flipped the whole script, and I was just honest. And I said, look, I'm running into this staffing issue. Do you have any ideas, or can you help me?
That's right. And people would say yes, because I believe we have a basic desire to want to help people. I do that. I believe that most people, are built that way, but we've got to ask. Gosh, it is hard to believe that we are coming to the end of this show. I've got to have you both back because there's like 1,000 other things I want to ask. Now, I want you to tell people about your podcast, tell you how they get a hold of you. And then I like to close the show by each of you giving your best piece of business advice to our listeners.
Okay. Women Your Mother Warned You About, our podcast. It is the podcast that makes a business sexy again. We are the women your mother warned you about. And that really just means standing in who we are exactly as we are unapologetically. The show's for men and women. It's a blend of business and sales and life, and how do we make it all work? So there's always a nugget of information. We have amazing guests like you who've been on our show twice, and you get some information out of it and you laugh a little bit. So you can check that out at womenyourmotherwarnsyouabout.com, and you can find all of our social media channels and every possible way to connect with Rachel and I at that website. So I'll bounce it over to Rachel for business advice.
Business advice. Yeah. I think I'm going to go with what came to mind when you asked that question, because immediately my brain was like, better come up with something good, Rachel. And I think aside from learning improv from Gina, which you should do if you haven't
you
already.
just stole my advice. No, but go on.
I love that.
But you can talk about the improv.
Okay.
But the advice that I got from Gina, and I because Gina started out as my sales coach, my very first sales coach. And she taught me that. Yeah, that's a whole other story about how we met. And the big advice, and I've been telling this to my dancers too, is how you do one thing is how you do everything. And it's really telling that if you are really halfway doing most things, then even the things that you really put importance on, you're probably not doing them to the best of your ability either. So to strive to be very consistent in your pursuit of excellence in all things, because how you do one thing, and that includes prospecting calls and how you treat customers, even the worst of customers, and how you treat everyone around you and how you treat yourself. How you do one thing is how you do everything.
Oh, I love that. I love that.
And my piece of advice would be check your ego. Check your ego and have some humility, be willing to be vulnerable. I was just talking to a prospect the other day who literally said he was so enamored with me after talking to me. It was a cold call because I told him my story, how I joined Sales Gravy when my business was really struggling during the pandemic. And he said, I can't believe you're sharing this with me and you were willing to walk away from your business and go join a competitor business. And I'm like, why wouldn't I? Like, I asked for help. And so be willing to ask for help when you're struggling and you don't know what amazing things will happen from that. And you gotta check your ego to be able to do that.
Absolutely, because sometimes you're in the seat where you can help others, and sometimes you're in the seat that you need to help. Rachel, your advice reminds me, years ago, I was in the back of an aerobics class. That's how long ago it was. It was an aerobics class, and I really wasn't doing what I was supposed to be doing. I was cheating in the back of the class. And my girlfriend said to me, she said, the teacher's going to catch you and you're going to get in trouble. And the teacher overheard my girlfriend saying it to me. And the teacher piped up and said, she said, no, this is your time. If you don't want to lift your leg, if you don't want to get in shape, you're wasting your time. You're not wasting mine. Whoa. And it hit me like a thunderbolt. And I thought, that's right. So when I sit down to do things, it's my time. And if I'm not going to put everything I've got into it, then I'm not going to get anything. I'm not going to get anything out of it. So interesting to me that was like 1989 and I've never, ever forgotten it. So anyway, we will put all this information into the show notes. You have got to tune into the women your mother warned you about. I mean, everything about this show is powerful. The guests are amazing. The banter is fun, and just the information is really powerful. I can't thank you both enough for joining us today. For those of us who joined us live, thank you so much. But we will wrap this up, put it in a podcast. You will get all the information. We'll see you right here next week for another episode of Thrive, turning uncertainty to competitive advantage. When Gina has her dog back, she needs to post a picture so we all can see. We'll be thinking and praying for you. You can bet on that. All right. See you next week.